Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include the leaked Elden Ring footage, Farmville dev Zynga buying Torchlight 3 dev Extra, some Diablo news, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the video description below, but right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now, before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website, Riker.com, using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily with zero education in the field. All thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Diablo 3 is gearing up for its Season 23. And watch how easily I edit this page to include the latest patch information. No coding knowledge needed, everything is very intuitive, just a few clicks, and I'm updating my website. It's so easy to just maintain a website with Squarespace. And if I ever want to do something more complicated, there are tons of resources to help figure that out. Or I can always contact their support directly, which is available 24/7. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. And Squarespace is currently offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Riker or click the link in the description to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Riker to get started today. In our first story, Valheim has now surpassed 5 million units sold in the 4 weeks it has been in early access. To put that number into perspective for some of my Diablo audience here, it took Diablo 2 a year to reach 4 million units sold. And back then, Diablo 2 had broken records for being the fastest selling computer game ever. The devs released a patch this week with improvements to dedicated servers that should help with connection and ping, and as per your recommendation, I've checked the game out myself. And yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. I don't think I'm as into it as some other people, but I can recognize why it's seeing the success that it's seeing. I'm just not much into survival games myself, but I enjoy how Valheim treats one of the aspects of survival games that I dislike the most. Hunger. Needing to eat and drink in order to not die is something I find terribly tedious. And in a video game, it's unbearable. In Valheim, they turn the mechanic upside down and frame it positively instead. So instead of eating to avoid death, you eat to gain a temporary buff. So when I play, I never eat. Unless I'm getting ready for a boss fight and I need that extra health. The construction mechanics is what I like most about these types of games. And Valheim's is pretty good. There's a dose of realism that makes you need to build intelligently so that your structures don't just collapse, but you have the freedom to make some cool buildings. For example, Redditor Ravnuslock recreated Diablo's town of Tristram in Valheim. I also have to admit that the boss fights in Valheim are interesting. I don't love the general combat of the game, but fighting a boss feels like an exciting event. In other news, this week saw the leak of a gameplay trailer for Elden Ring, which seemed incredibly confidential. In the footage, we see familiar Souls-style combat and boss battles, along with horse riding and a fire-breathing dragon. A lot of speculation is suggesting we'll get an official trailer soon, possibly at an online presentation, since publisher Bandai Namco has just trademarked the name Bandai Namco Next. First announced at E3 2019, Elden Ring is an upcoming fantasy Dark Souls-style action RPG, and the public had never seen any gameplay for the title until this leak. Elden Ring is being made by the creators of Dark Souls, so the gameplay is mostly what you expected. But you can also see the influences from Software's latest title, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. For a lot of potential fans, one of the most interesting things about Elden Ring is the fact that the lore for the game is being written by author George R.R. Martin, who will take any excuse to not finish writing his Game of Thrones series. Actually, Riker, the title of the series is A Song of Ice and Fire. You should do better research next time. In other news, Hidden Path Entertainment revealed that they're working on a third-person open-world Dungeons & Dragons RPG. This news came via a tweet in which Hidden Path was looking to fill diverse positions on the team working on the video game. Hidden Path Entertainment is not a particularly big or well-known studio, but it has been around since 2006, and it helped Valve develop Counter-Strike Global Offensive. An open-world RPG does not seem to be the kind of game they typically work on, so I'd be interested to learn how this came about, and as a fan of Dungeons & Dragons, I hope this game sees success. Gods know the franchise needs to see greater success when it steps out of the tabletop scene.
Let their blood rain from the sky!
This week also saw the reveal of Aliens Fireteam, an upcoming 3-player co-op PvE shooter set in the universe of Aliens. It's coming this summer to PC and consoles and is set 23 years after the original Alien movie trilogy. The game will take place over a multi-mission story campaign and include 20 total enemy types, including 11 different types of xenomorphs. Players can choose one of 5 classes with unlockable cosmetic customization options. The game reminds me a bit of Left 4 Dead, which I enjoyed, and I've always liked Ridley Scott's Alien setting. The game's developer is Cold Iron Studios, which was founded in 2015 and acquired by Fox's gaming division Fox Next in 2018. Fox Next was then acquired by Disney in 2019, and then sold to Scopely in early 2020. And then in summer of 2020, Scopely sold Cold Iron Studios to Daybreak Game Company. And throughout all this, Cold Iron was working on Aliens Fireteam. And now, after 6 years, the poor devs finally get to release a game, and it's looking fun. Onto some Lost Ark news. Gameplay footage of a new class, the Striker, has been revealed. The Striker will release on Lost Ark's Korean server on March 17th, while the rest of us in the Western world are still anticipating a Western release. As a reminder, we know that Amazon Games entered a publishing agreement with Smilegate RPG to collaborate on publishing a game in 2021. The Smilegate RPG CEO said, quote, "Smilegate RPG and Amazon Games will combine our respective expertise to introduce one of our AAA games to Western players." Well, as far as I can tell, Lost Ark is the only game that Smilegate RPG, a subsidiary of Smilegate, even owns, so it's a pretty safe bet that they're talking about Lost Ark. In very quick Wolcen news, a new patch has released that includes more bug fixes, as well as some skill balance changes to shake up the meta. Link in the video description. Onto some Torchlight 3 news. The developer of Torchlight 3, Extra Games, has been acquired by Zynga, a huge social game dev company, perhaps best known for creating Farmville way back in the day. And according to Zynga, a big reason for their interest in Extra was the pedigree that Max Schaefer and his team have in the ARPG genre. Max was one of the fathers of Diablo and Torchlight, having worked on Diablo 1 and 2 and all 3 Torchlight games. Zynga CEO Frank Gibeau said, quote, "Max and his team at Extra Games are responsible for some of the most legendary game properties ever created, and they are experts in the action RPG genre and cross-platform development. This acquisition will be instrumental in growing our iconic licenses and brands from mobile to PCs and consoles, while helping to further expand Zynga's total addressable market." Extra's first project with Zynga will be, quote, "a new, yet-to-be-announced RPG for cross-platform play." It's interesting how we have PC and console devs trying to get into the mobile market, and now we're seeing a mobile dev trying to get into the PC and console market. Now, the obvious question here is, what does this mean for Torchlight 3? Well, once upon a time, going way back, taking a history lesson here, Max Schaefer co-founded Runic Games back in 2008. It took Runic 11 months, just 11 months, to make Torchlight 1, which released in 2009. In 2010, Perfect World Entertainment acquired a majority stake in Runic Games. In 2012, they released Torchlight 2, and then while the company got to work on creating and releasing other games, Max Schaefer left Runic in 2016 to found Extra Games. And in 2017, Perfect World closed Runic Games, but still held the rights to the Torchlight franchise. In 2018, Perfect World announced its acquisition of Extra Games and revealed Torchlight Frontiers, which ultimately became Torchlight 3. If Zynga bought Extra from Perfect World, did they also buy Torchlight? Well, Max Schaefer shared some insight on the Torchlight Discord and explained that Torchlight 3 will remain a Perfect World game, but that Extra will continue to work on it. Extra's future games will be published by Zynga. I look forward to seeing what new RPG Extra is working on. On to Diablo news. In case you missed it, my BlizzCon interview with the Diablo 4 leads went up this week. I interviewed game director Luis Barriga and art director John Mueller, and they shared some great insights into Diablo 4's open world, non-linear story, and more. In other Diablo 4 news, community member Doomscream shared some observations he made from the rogue gameplay footage that may have gone unnoticed. Some highlights include the fact that we see arrows ricocheting off walls, potions healing over time instead of all at once, with a 17-second cooldown, What appears to be herbs as some form of harvestable crafting resource can be seen on the minimap. While mounted, you have a new skill bar with 3 skill slots. The game has integrated voice chat. The rogue has some smoke bomb power and the ability to leave shadow clones. I'll link the thread for you to check out for yourselves. In Diablo 2 Resurrected news, Tebe has put together a wonderful resource website, Diablo2.io, that is a consolidated source of everything we currently know about this remaster. Also, as a PSA folks, there are apparently some scams currently going around involving alleged Diablo 2 Resurrected alpha keys. Please be wary, do not fall for these scams. No one currently has any alpha keys to give away. In fact, it's unlikely Blizzard will even give out alpha keys because while they used to do that, now they just flag accounts for alpha access directly. The only way that you can get into the upcoming alpha is to opt in via the website. There will be an initial single-player alpha test, and then a multiplayer alpha will come later, but no dates have been announced for any of these. And anyone currently claiming to have alpha keys is lying. In other D2 news, Carbot released a new video in his Diablo 2 comedy series. Be sure to check that out. And given how much debate there has been about what additional changes, if any, Diablo 2 Resurrected should make, Crom Power has put together a survey that I encourage you folks to fill out. Do you feel D2R should change more things than they announced? The devs are clearly open to feedback, and that survey can be a useful resource for them. We also learned this week that Diablo 2 Resurrected will let you import your Diablo 2 save files. So you can transfer your offline characters or your open Battle.net characters from D2 to D2R. In an interview with IGN Middle East, Matthew Cedarquist, game producer for D2 Resurrected, said, quote, "Yes, keep your old save files. Back when we were working on the remaster, we wondered if the old save files would work. So we kind of shoved it in and it worked. So yes, your local single-player save files will carry over." And lastly, onto Diablo 3 news. We're a little more than 1 week into PTR testing for Season 23, with less than 1 week of PTR remaining. And exactly 1 week in, we got an update to address some of the biggest feedback we were seeing so far. Previously on the PTR, the reworked Rothma set could attain almost permanent invulnerability by combining the Rothma's shield passive with the ability to spam Army of the Dead via the Rothma 2-piece bonus. To combat this, they've nerfed the 2-piece so that you cannot spam Army of the Dead nearly as much. To make up for this damage loss, they buffed the 6-piece bonus, which should also incentivize using Bone Spirit in the build as originally intended. They've also once again reworked the Firebird set, which was having overpowered interactions on the PTR with the Talrasha set. To prevent this interaction, they moved the 4-piece damage multiplier onto the 6-piece, but are also forcing the damage to come from a non-channeling skill to try to get a fresh damage dealer into the wizard mix. They've also dialed back the nerf to the Demon Hunter's Gears of the Dreadlands set. All around great changes, and further testing should yield promising results. We still don't have a start date for Season 23, but our best guesses suggest early to mid-April. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video, in which we discuss the biggest controversy in Diablo history, the Amazon's face in Diablo 2 Resurrected. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.